Welcome back to Josh's Auto. Here we have a 2019 Ram 2500. This is a limited coil spring front suspension air ride rear suspension. This truck here is having an issue with the air ride, and the customer decided he wanted to go back to coil springs. After doing some research, I found a company that came up with a coil spring conversion for it. It's airridedelete.com. Now with this kit, you can rent the tool for programming the computer, as well as your plug that you're going to need. In the box it comes with your instructions. This one came with both coil springs for the back and shocks, Bilstein 5100 series shocks, installation kits, and then you also need the spring isolators, so it also includes that. Go ahead and open this box. You have coil spring. Now, it came as an order with 3 boxes, so your shocks, the programming stuff, as well as your bushings that you're going to need, and then 1 box for each rear coil. So far it seems like it's a pretty all-inclusive kit. So I'm going to start disassembly on the truck on the back end, and I'll go over the installation. So in the instructions, if you read through the whole thing, there's going to be 2 bolts on the bottom of the airbag you're going to have to take off. And then this fender liner, it's optional. You may or may not have to take the fender liner off, depending on what you're comfortable with, to gain access to the nut at the top of the shock here. So we will be taking those loose. I've already taken the sway bar end links loose to allow the axle a little more travel. And then this sensor here, this is your ride level sensor. It detects whether or not the truck is riding at an equal height, left to right, so it knows when to add or take away more air out of the system. With this kit, it says you can either leave it or remove it. I am going to remove it. I've already removed it on the other side. So there's the sensor removed. So with it removed, it's going to have the 2 bolt holes there and just that little nipple that the rod attaches to. And I've taken the wire loose and just zip tied it up. I'm going to trim the end of the zip tie. I've already got this shock loose, so I'm going to keep moving. Alright, with following the instructions, it said that your air compressor for the airbags was on the driver's side. On this truck, I found it on the passenger side frame rail. Before you go to take the bags loose, you need to let the air out of them, and they recommend just taking the lines loose and let the air pressure bleed off. To get to the back one over here, I ended up taking the other 2 totally out to get to it, and each one of the lines independently will have pressure on them. Whether you take 1 or 2 of them loose, you need to take all of them loose to bleed off all the air pressure. Once you have the air pressure off, you can let your floor jack down underneath the rear end a little bit. Just be careful of your brake and ABS line there, that you don't pull them too tight. Then once the airbags are loose, you can gain access to the line that's at the top of both of the bags. So it was a 12mm wrench to take them off of each of the bags, as well as the lines at the compressor themselves. And because I had already taken the nuts loose off the bottom, one would go here and one on the front side of the lower perch. On my driver's side, there ended up only being one nut on the back side of the perch. They do say that there's supposed to be two, but this one was either missing one, or on the driver's side they only put one on from the factory. So now that I have those out, I can go ahead and prep the coil. Alright, so I have the full air delete kit installed. So new Bilsteins in the back. This side was missing the inner fender liner whenever it got here, but you can see there's quite a bit more room with the inner fender liner out whenever you're trying to change the shocks, gain access to the top. So what I've realized is this setup you can do with an actual lift kit. So if you wanted to get like a BDS, rough country, zone, whatever your preference is, you really need the bottom isolator, the top isolator, of course your coil springs and shocks, and then just go ahead and take everything out as I showed before for the air ride. And then if you have alpha OBD and the unlock cable that you need to get into the computer, you can lift one of these as high as you want to go and still be able to turn off all the warning lights in the dash for the air system not working correctly. So, and this works for the 19 to 22, the kit that I got was advertised for. So just for knowledge of whoever is having issues with the air ride, if they wanted to lift it, or these ones were stock height springs I put on here. He just wanted to level it, so we bought that, and we bought a 2.5-inch leveling kit for the front end with Carly springs and matching Bilstein 5100s to go on the front of this truck. Thanks for watching. So in the instructions with this kit, you also need to pull this fuse. It was a 40 amp, I believe. That's location F5. And you also need to pull this fuse out, and that is fuse location F50. Those are for your air compressor. So, and this is on the driver's side fuse box underneath the hood. So